We live in this incredibly complex, high-tech world. But what if I told you that almost all of it, the entire thing, is held together by one single fragile material? And what if that material was about to disappear? What if that thread could just snap?
Yeah, I'm talking about something you see every day, something you probably don't even think about twice. But it's literally everywhere. It's in the tires that bring food to your grocery store, it's in the life-saving equipment in hospitals, it's in the seals that keep our power grid from failing. And the story of how we got it? Well, it all starts with some seriously weird science.
All right, so let's start with something super simple. A rubber band, right? Looks pretty boring. But this little thing, its physical properties are completely backwards. They defy all common sense, and weirdly enough, they actually show us one of the most fundamental laws of the entire universe in action.
Okay, so this is where it gets really strange. Think about a metal wire. If you heat it up while you're stretching it, it gets longer, it gets weaker, and eventually it'll snap. But rubber? It does the exact opposite. When you heat it, it actually contracts. It pulls tighter with more force. It gets stronger. I mean, how is that even possible?
Well, that totally bizarre behavior is actually a perfect real-world example of something called entropy. You've probably heard of it. It's this fundamental rule of the universe that says things naturally go from order to chaos, from an unlikely, neat state to a messy, much more probable one. And a simple rubber band, it's just entropy doing its thing, constantly trying to get back to its most jumbled up, chaotic state.
So here's the key. When you stretch a rubber band, you're basically forcing all these long, tangled up molecules, these polymer chains, into straight, orderly lines. It's an unnatural, really improbable state. So when you add heat, you're just adding energy. It makes those chains wiggle and vibrate like crazy, and they snap back into their natural, tangled up mess even faster. And that's what makes the whole thing shrink. Okay, so we have this material with these mind-bending, almost magical properties. But for centuries, that magic was also a total curse. Because in its raw, natural form, rubber was it was a mess. It had these huge, fatal flaws that made it pretty much useless for anything industrial.
I mean, we're talking about a complete disaster. The first rubber products would literally melt into a stinking, sticky goo in the summer heat. Then, come winter, they'd turn brittle and just crack into a million pieces. People lost fortunes. Entire warehouses full of rubber boots and coats just rotted away into this disgusting sludge. But there was this one guy, Charles Goodyear, who just became obsessed. This man was constantly in debt, facing jail time. His family was starving, but he just wouldn't give up. He spent years experimenting, mixing anything he could get his hands on into raw rubber, totally convinced he could fix it. And then, after all that struggle, the big breakthrough that would change the world happened by total accident.
Everyone told him to give up. His friends would say, "Charles, rubber is dead." And his famous reply was always, "I am the man to bring it back." It was that absolute crazy conviction that kept him going, right up to the moment he made his discovery.
And this is what he found. The big accident was him accidentally dropping a mix of rubber and sulfur onto a hot stove. And what he discovered was vulcanization. Turns out, if you heat rubber with sulfur, the sulfur atoms create these strong but flexible little bridges between all those long polymer chains. And just like that, the gooey, unstable mess turns into a stable, durable, elastic miracle material. So Goodyear's discovery basically kicked off a global rubber boom. It changed everything. But here's the part that should make you a little nervous. The really unsettling truth is that almost all of the world's natural rubber, the high-performance stuff our entire world is built on, comes from just one single species of tree. Yeah, over 90%. Let that sink in for a second. Almost everything relies on this one tree from the Amazon. And what that creates is a massive, single point of failure for our entire civilization. It's a huge vulnerability. And it was exposed in the most spectacular way by none other than Henry Ford. So back in the 1920s, Ford got tired of the British controlling the rubber market, so he decided to build his own supply. He went onto the Amazon and built this huge, bizarre, American-style city right in the middle of the jungle. He called it Fordlandia. He planted millions and millions of rubber trees, and every single one of them died. What happened? They were completely wiped out by a fungus, the South American leaf blight. See, out in the wild, rubber trees grow far apart from each other.
But on Ford's plantation, they were packed together. So the blight just tore through them like wildfire. People who saw it said it was like a moving line of death, just green, healthy trees on one side and black, dead ones on the other. The story of Fortlandia is pretty chilling, right? But here's the thing. It isn't just a story from the past. It's a warning. Because the exact same conditions that led to that total catastrophe, we've now replicated them across the entire planet. So today, where does that 90% of natural rubber come from? Southeast Asia. And get this, almost every single one of those trees is a clone. They all come from just a handful of seeds that were smuggled out of Brazil way back in the 1870s. So what we have is a gigantic, genetically identical monoculture. They're all the same. And that means they're completely, utterly defenseless if that leaf blight ever makes it across the ocean.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, wait a minute, what about synthetic rubber? We've been making that stuff for ages, right? Why not just use that? And that's a great question. But the problem is, when it comes to the really critical, high-stress jobs, synthetic rubber just can't cut it. It's because natural rubber has a literal superpower. It's this incredible property that scientists still haven't been able to perfectly copy. It's called strain-induced crystallization. Now get this. When you stretch natural rubber, those long polymer chains don't just stretch out. They actually line up and form tiny, super hard crystals inside the rubber itself. This means the material gets stronger the more you pull on it. It's almost like it heals itself on a microscopic level. And the performance difference is just huge. I mean, look at this. Even the very best synthetic rubber we can make doesn't come anywhere close to the strength of the real deal. It's just missing that self-reinforcing magic. And this is why all this matters. Think about an airplane tire. It has to handle temperatures from freezing cold at 30,000 feet to scorching hot when it hits the runway, all while taking the impact of hundreds of tons. Those tires are pretty much 100% natural rubber. So are the giant tires on the trucks that move all our food, and the earth movers that build our cities. Without natural rubber, they would just fail. The stakes here are, well, they couldn't be higher. There's an expert who warned that if that leaf blight ever gets to Southeast Asia, what we would face is, and I'm quoting here, a complete global societal meltdown. What does that even mean? It means global shipping grinds to a halt. Trucks stop moving. Food stops getting to cities. The world as we know it just stops. We could be looking at actual famine in major cities. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some glimmers of hope. Scientists are working on other ways to get rubber, like from a plant called the guayule shrub, and it makes really good stuff. But, and this is a big but, those solutions are decades away from being able to replace what we have now. The threat, the vulnerability, is right here, right now. And all of this really forces us to ask a tough question. The story of rubber is about this massive hidden dependency, this one single point of failure that our whole world is balanced on. It makes you wonder, are we even capable of seeing our weakest links before they snap? It's always these hidden connections, right? The ones we don't see that really shape our world. And maybe understanding them is the only way we can be ready for what's next.